It's so hard to, I cannot stress this enough how difficult it is to do an episode on this because it's not just one story, and not even all of the elements are stories. They're like framed stories. Some of them aren't even narrative. Some of them aren't even like, you know, like Rite of Spring is not even like there's no conflict. It's just things happen, you know?
Right, exactly. Like it's a documentary. It's just like a visual documentary.
Yeah.
But so yeah, and you had source material and story. Like, I am so sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. So I kind of dropped off the map with source material because there's so many things. Like there's, as I said, there's 8 shorts, or like 8 like shorter, I guess, sections of it. And then only 6 of them are narrative, or like stories. And so I chose not to do source material on like pretty much any of them because Deems Taylor kind of describes them, each one, in the beginning. And so there's not really much I could do other than say, yeah, what he said. For instance, with the Pastoral Symphony, which I'm going to talk about, it's like Greek mythology. And it's like, I don't want to get into Greek mythology right now because they really don't even get into it and it's not even accurate. So it's like, I can't even, like, what am I going to get into Greek mythology and get into, like, Scottish mythology with unicorns and then also get into, you know, like, there's not much I can do without diving too much into things. So, but I
do want to say that this is the most accurate Disney has ever portrayed Zeus.
That's true.
Yeah, without having him philandering.
Yes, I was surprised he didn't reach down and snatch up one of the centaurettes.
Yeah, no. Those are exclusively for Totally Not Fred Moore.
Yeah. Okay, so as we've said before with Fantasia, it's 2-hour-long musical program that they did in the 40s. The frame story of this is the host, Deems Taylor, and the orchestra conducted by Leo Stokowski. It was, as I said, a little hard to do an outline for this one because it's split up into 8 main parts with an intermission in the middle. And technically only 6 of them are actual stories. Now, it starts with Toccata and Fugue in D minor, which is a Bach composition, and shows live shots of the orchestra for the first half, which is actually really cool because it goes to each of the instruments or the groups of instruments as they're being highlighted in the song itself, and it lights them up with really cool different types of colors. Like, I would have loved for that to be the entire thing. Like, I just want a 2-hour concert of just seeing all the musicians doing their thing and being lit up by different colors, and usually the colors will correspond with the type of emotion you want. Like, the flutes will be kind of like a whitish color, and the bassoons will be a deeper, more purpley color. Like, it's really awesome. But about halfway through, it switches into some weird abstract animation that I think Nate might talk about later.
But
basically, the rest of the song, it just looks like a bunch of clouds, pretty much, and like things happening in the clouds. So after Toccata and Fugue, we move to Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker Suite, which is really just a bunch of little songs, one after the other. Nate, I think you commented that it was like a little mini Fantasia in itself, because it's not just one song.
I thought it was like Fantasia itself is like segment, but like the second segment is subsegment.
Exactly. So it's like, whereas Toccata and Fugue or like Rite of Spring is one composition that maybe has different movements, but it's clearly the same thing. Nutcracker Suite, the songs literally are different, and there's nothing that carries over. There's no like musical style that carries over because it's not meant to, because each one is supposed to be from different, like, it's supposed to be different songs because they're supposed to be different, like, you know, sweet treats or whatever that they're bringing out for the kids.
Different acts in the ballet.
Yeah, which I actually thought it was really funny because Deems Taylor said in the beginning of the Nutcracker Suite, The Nutcracker ballet itself, isn't too popular nowadays, but the suite is very popular. And I was really confused for a moment because I was like, no, that's ridiculously popular. Are you kidding? Until I realized, oh yeah, this happened in like 1940. I'm sure this was before it was repopularized.
Do you think this is what repopularized it?
I was wondering that. It might be.
Real talk, by the way. I think I can maybe answer that because I'm having like a flashback.
Might also be Barbie Nutcracker.
I was probably Barbie and the Nutcracker. That's a level of cultural impact that Disney can only aspire to.
Yeah, that's true. Freaking Barbie. Or the Nutcracker with, I think it was Macaulay Culkin who starred in this. It was like a live showing of the Nutcracker.
Really?
Yeah, when he's a little boy. It's really cute.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd have to look into that.
I had the VHS and I would put it into my little TV. Remember when you had like those little tiny box TVs where the screen was like really small and you would have the VHS.
And it's got a VHS player right in it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so. But
yeah, I was gonna say, first grade, I was on stage. I was also a theater kid.
Yes.
This doesn't count. Like, I was a theater kid later in life, but this was compulsory. Everyone in the class had to do it. We did a production of the Nutcracker, and everybody had their own little jobs.
Did you play the Mouse King?
I played a mushroom.
Aww.
My job was to walk from the back of the stage, come to the front of the stage, bounce around and bow, and then back up, bounce around and bow, like 4 times.
So it was influenced by Fantasia, because that was never part of the original.
Yeah, exactly. That's what because its revival must have been like, Fantasia based.
Yeah. For context, everyone, which I'm gonna get into, in the Nutcracker Suite in Fantasia, the song that is supposed to be, I think it's the Green Tea from China. There are dancers in like traditional, like not traditional, stereotypical maybe, like Chinese clothing that dance.
They got them in the big hats.
Yeah, and like in the Nutcracker Suite, but then in Fantasia, they're little mushroom men with little conical hats. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, now we move into Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker Suite, which is really just a bunch of little songs. So we start out with some adorable fairies leaving dew on the plants in springtime, along with some mushroom men moving and flowers grooving.
I love those flowers.
Yeah, I do too. And then we have a sexy goldfish dance in summertime. Then golden autumnal fairies and the waltzing leaves for autumn. And finally winter with frost fairies and snowflake ballerinas. It's honestly delightful and super relaxing to watch all of this.
Even the flowers, like when they're like jumping and dancing, it's the wildest part. Like that's still very tranquil to watch. And
it's awesome because the animation of itself is so simplistic. It's only the barest suggestion of motion, and like the flowers don't need hands, they don't need faces, they don't need expressions. You kind of get who they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be. It's very like minimal movement, but it's really effective, I think. The animators had a lot of fun with it, I think. It was really
absolutely
cool. So after that, after Nutcracker Suite, there's The Sorcerer's Apprentice by composer Paul Dukas, where we see Mickey as a wizard's intern who gets lazy and bespells a broom to do his chores for him, resulting in near drowning and hopefully no class credit, because come on, dude, you literally had one job. I mean, he's like an unpaid intern, pretty much. Okay, so...
yeah.
The Rite of Spring comes next, and I really wish I had more enthusiasm, but it's literally a 20-minute science lesson set to Stravinsky's Dissonant Russian Soul. Seriously, what is it with Russians and those chords? I mean, it gives you that feeling of reaching the bottom of a staircase and not realizing you still have one step left and then feeling like your heart is going to slingshot through your sternum while you free fall for like a millisecond. It's that for just like 20 minutes. So anyway, this is basically evolution, starting with spicy volcanic earth and aquatic bacteria sex that probably awakened a hunger in 6-year-old Will Wright that led to his weird protozoan sex game, which is Spore, for those who don't know about it. It's a video game. So 22 minutes later... Are you okay?
No.
I'm Will Wright, and this is my weird protozoan sex game. Okay. Yeah, Spore, it's literally a video game. It's E for everyone, I think, but it's a video game where you get to play as bacteria, and you get to have sex with bacteria who are like you, and then you evolve into bigger bacteria, and then eventually you go up onto land, and then, again, you have sex with others of your kind, and evolve, and kill, and eat other species, and it's just... Real talk, you can also use that same descriptor to describe Viva Pinata. Oh, it just has more colors.
It really does, and it's less wet.
That's funny. But yeah, can you imagine like a 6-year-old Will Wright watching Fantasia and just experiencing an awakening within himself?
Hope this doesn't awaken anything in me. It does. Money, creativity.
Hope this doesn't evolve anything in me. Okay, so 22 minutes later, the story ends on a grand, flatulent whimper, leaving the viewer bored, sleepy, and deeply traumatized from watching dinosaurs die from heat exhaustion, thirst, and being stuck in the mud in a troubling scene that calls to mind the tragic death of Artax in Neverending Story. Let's have a moment of silence for that poor horse. Anyway, we never got to see the meteor.
I gotta say, big oof.
Big oof.
First of all, I don't think they knew about the meteor at the time.
Really?
Yeah, like because Deems Taylor says how they were lost. Well, no one knows, and this was like the 40s, man.
Oh yeah, I guess it is like the 40s, man. But yeah, I was disappointed because I expected to see the meteor, and I never saw the meteor. Which, by the way, speaking of the meteor, so with the age of the dinosaurs here. In like the middle, so the rite of spring, the middle of it is just dinosaurs. It's all just turf wars from petty ass cliques that roam the air, then get eaten, the sea, then get eaten, and the land, and that then get killed by a meteor. Which is weird considering the Earth is flat. I mean, shouldn't the meteor have flung the dinosaurs into space on impact? NASA, give us the facts. Release the forbidden space dinosaurs.
That's a Monty Python sketch.
Yeah, just
not literally, but it sounds like one. It
sounds like it. The forbidden space dinosaurs. Also, whenever the T-Rex came on, I was like, oh god.
I will say this: Tyrannosaurus Rex looked the worst out of all the dinosaurs.
He did. He was not represented properly. So, okay, let's move on from the Rite of Spring. It's like traumatizing and deeply troubling, but also really boring. So it's just the worst out of all of it. Just do yourself a favor and just skip it. Just skip it. I'm sorry, just skip it. Nothing happens. Just dinosaurs being dinosaurs and then dying of thirst and hunger and sadness, I guess. I don't know. So
This hurts.
It hurt them too, I guess. So, right before the intermission, the host introduces the soundtrack, a thin little rod that's animated to change with every new instrument it mimics. It's honestly super cute and a great way to show kids how to view certain musical sounds, because like certain like bassoons and like bass and really kind of deep throaty instruments, the animation that you see related to that is more rounded, kind of thicker, and then the hi-hat and like the flute and stuff is a sharper sort of visual, so it's kind of cool in visualizing.
And then the triangle is shaped like a triangle.
Okay. So after intermission, we see the Pastoral Symphony by Beethoven, a sort of Greek mythological story that shows different groups frolicking and doing their thing. We have unicorns, pegasi, satyrs, and cherubs, and centaurs that just kind of go on with their days. I forgot the centaurettes. Yeah, the female...
You can't forget the centaurettes.
The female centaurs are specifically called centaurettes. Because, they're the girl ones. You get it? Anyway, Bacchus, the feasting god, arrives in all his jolly glory, and they have a party that's promptly ruined by Zeus being, as usual, the biggest asshole. The story ends with Iris giving everyone a taste of the rainbow, and then Diana bringing on the night. Dance of the Hours by Ponchielli, whatever, is an adorable ballet of morning, afternoon, and evening ballerinas. Ostriches dance through the morning hours, then lead into the hippopotamus noon dancers and the prima ballerina, who decides to take a nap, just as the evening dancers, who are elephants, blow themselves tutus made of bubbles and dance us into dusk. That's when some presumably male alligators show up, led by their leader, who is either extremely hungry or extremely horny for the prima ballerina. Maybe both.
Same hat.
Love works in mysterious ways. Same hat. The last number is a combo of Night on Bald Mountain by Mussorgsky, freaking Russians, man, and Ave Maria by Schubert. It's really not...
Love them Russians.
Love them Russians and that dissonance. It's really not anything too complex or interesting. It's just Satan and his pals throwing a bonfire rager up on the mountain and then scattering at dawn when, I guess, God files a noise complaint. I don't know. All I know is that...
You can't say that it's nothing interesting and say that it's Satan throwing a rager on the mountain.
Well, yeah. It's just Satan doing Satan stuff. All I know is that I can guarantee you the last 5 minutes of this will put you to sleep. If you can watch the whole thing without yawning once, I will personally make and give you a medal. Anyway, yeah, that's it. Just look up the individual clips on YouTube and save yourself the 2 hours of suffering.